This one is actually pretty interesting because I feel like this particular topic, and this kind of goes into my week too. Don't worry. This particular topic can be seen one or two ways. So we just talked about like praying as far as asking God for a sign, for direction. And then we see this post where this guy is basically saying prayer does not work. And so this would be an interesting, I think, breakdown of seeing two sides and how God actually moves and works. So on Facebook, I'm a paraphrase this. I'm not going to read it word for word. But basically this guy was saying that he was a believer. And then going into COVID, he was praying for however long that he was praying. He said he's praying consistently, trying to pray with a good heart, all this stuff. He was praying for the pandemic to be over, and then he ended with this. He said that, well, everybody knows how that outcome came. And I think I'm just insinuating that he was saying that we know how the outcome ended with, like, people dying, with people getting COVID, with the businesses closing, and, like, all that stuff. And it's safe to say that he's saying that prayer for him did not work. And then he also later commented saying that, long story short, that he's basically an atheist. But then I think about like my situation when I pray specifically for something and it seems like my prayers got answered. So the question is did your prayers actually work? And how do you know like what you're praying for is actually for God and of God and in God's will?
I mean, that's the question that, and I could have responded to the post, but I didn't. Because in reading that or listening to it in general, it doesn't tell me anything. Mm-hmm. It doesn't tell me his relationship with him. It doesn't tell me if he was studying of the word. It doesn't tell me how he prayed to God or if it was his prayers was in God's will. And not the thing, was the pandemic given to us, allowed to happen to us by God to wake us up, to get closer to him, for all the disobedience that's going on. So there's a number of things that I can ask him, but one thing comes to mind when he said he's an atheist. He said he used to be a believer. Mm-hmm. Well, 2 John says they went out from among us because they were never with us.
Yeah.
So.
And also, like, as far as the pandemic goes, a lot of that first, year and a half was like based off of fear, not necessarily off of fact. It was based off of what was unknown about it. Mm-hmm. And now we know a little bit more, and now it's not it's not considered what it used to be considered. But I think in general, the thing too is that like you have to understand that not just he was praying during that time. There were a lot of people praying during that time. Mm-hmm. And then, but to think, I think be in the mindset of like, oh, my specific prayer did not get answered, so now I'm not going to believe is a little like, I feel like maybe that shows the depth of his relationship because.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
Because as a believer, you also understand that sometimes the things that we pray are not necessarily in God's will at that time that we're praying them. So they may or may not be answered right when we want them to be. It'll be in God's will.
Him giving up on prayer and giving up on God and because of his prayers not getting answered, do you believe that's arrogance?
Yes.
Why so?
I believe that you believe you should have the say over your own life instead of respecting what God has for your life.
Wouldn't that get hard? I mean, I understand 100%, because I've seen prayer on both ends where you pray for something to happen, it doesn't happen. And then you pray for something to happen and it does happen. But how do you feel about praying for something super hard and it not happening? As far as like, let's say death goes. You have a family member or a friend that's, on a sick bed and you're praying, you're asking God for them to deliver them from whatever they're going through, and then they pass away. How do you respond to situations like that? Or, and better, how would you coach or teach someone that may be going through that situation?
You mean like I did last year?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Well, here's the thing, and we always seem to forget this. It's not just about our prayer. God wants us to come to him in prayer. But if it's his will, if he predestined for something to happen, if he elect something to happen, our prayer can be going against his will. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's why I said it's according to your will.
Mm-hmm.
If it's your will, let it be done.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus even said that your will be done in heaven as it is on earth.
Yeah, because because Jesus knew that essentially God's will is the best will. So he knows that whatever God has planned is way better than what we could ever think of here. And so why not trust in what God has planned instead of putting trust in what we want or what we're feeling at that moment? Even in a moment when you're talking about like praying for a loved one to get better, it is so hard, I feel like, to be in that situation. But at the same time, the fact that they passed away doesn't mean that they weren't delivered.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
That reminds me of when Mr. Campbell was on, and he prayed for his wife to get better and for her to have the total peace from whatever. And he was saying how he believed that his prayer was answered because he believes that God brought his wife home because that was the ultimate peace that she would have had. Like,
And ultimate healing.
yeah. And so like he said, like, you never know, like he may delivered his wife from that situation and she would have, had something else or had more complications. So you never know, like that might have been the ultimate peace. And same thing, I guess you can think with like COVID. Like COVID is horrible, and then people passed away and whatnot. And we're doing these prayers and asking, but maybe that's the ultimate peace that we needed as a world, and we just don't understand it because we see the negative in it versus
We see what is affecting us directly.
Yeah.
So in a moment when we have a loved one that passes away, what is affecting us is going to be our grief.
Yeah.
We feel pain. We don't want to feel that pain. The loved one is, if they're believers and that's truly what we know, then they're at peace.
Well, think about it. Think about your prayer. The majority of our prayers are, God, give me, bless me, deliver me.
Yeah.
But it's hardly ever, praise you, let your name be edified, let your kingdom be uplifted, let me do your will. It's gimme, gimme, gimme. What was the reason do you think God saved you? Did he save you to do what you're doing now? I mean, and I have to think about that because he didn't save me for me just to sit back and ask for everything that I want. He saved me for a purpose. I was just, on the radio show the other day, and I said that, when I was competing and, I was winning, I was doing all those things, but I realized once I came to the knowledge of Christ that God was with me at that time. And he those things that I was doing as far as learning, leadership, and knowledge to get the knowledge, to compete in the martial arts, those principles I now use in teaching his word and mentoring and teaching people. So it's just changed the gifts or the ability he gave me. I now use it for his glory. But that's why the book of Nehemiah is a great book to read and look at the first chapter when Nehemiah goes into prayer. Before he asks God anything, he gives adoration to God. And that's the way we should pray. So this guy that wrote that, I have no idea where he was coming from.
You know what's crazy? I told Ayla, I think it was yesterday. I was like, I come to realize that I've learned a lot from you without even thinking about it. Don't get a big head. No, don't sit and start smiling. Don't get a big head. Okay, I'm not giving you any credit, but
I already know that.
But I learned a lot from you guys and didn't even realize it. So like every time I pray, I start off with thanking God because of that. So I think about when I was in high school and I wanted to go out with friends or whatever, and I would come down and before I ask you, I'll try to get on your good side. But I'm
And
not saying.
sometimes I say, "What do you want?"
Well, I'm not saying I'm trying to get on God's good side, but I kind of think of it like, let me give God the credit for the things He's already done before I go and ask for something else, And then fast forward to later when I actually started reading the Bible a little bit more, and not so much being a heathen. I read that, and I think it was in Nehemiah of giving God the
adoration.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. I just thought that was crazy.
It is. I mean, that's what we need to do. I mean, He did not save me to deliver me from sickness or deliver me from pain just for me to get well and then do nothing. I was thinking back when Des was sick a few weeks ago, and I remember your mom was talking about it, and I said, okay, that's good. And it was like, why is that good? Because him getting sick actually strengthens his immune system. Yeah. Getting the cold, that strengthens your immune system. Just like if you want to get stronger, you go in the gym.
And break down the muscles.
And when they grow back
stronger.
Right. So when God breaks down our life with pain, with despair, with trials, we come back from it stronger if we're in His Word.
Dad, every time you use that analogy, you owe me $1. You know that?
Where did you first get that analogy?
Hey, this
yeah, right.
I do this. This is what I do every day.
Yeah.
So every time I put it out there to the public, right?
Okay.
Every time you use that, you owe me. I need my royalties.
Where'd you get it from?
It don't matter.
From me.
Don't matter. No one else knows that.
You know what he said to me, Ayla? You know what he said? We were talking this morning and stuff, and he said, Dad, have you ever gave a message at church? from the to the congregation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. He said, well, hold on, wait a minute. You mean I gave a message before Darrell Sullins Sr.?
Yeah. Okay, I need a plaque now. Yeah, that's funny.
But if I never have to speak again and run the church, I wouldn't do it. I mean, I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to be out front.
Heathen. I am. Put the spotlight on me.
My goodness.
People probably look at this podcast and be like,
I
dang,
was
Darrell's a jerk.
just about to talk about the fact that we need to live in humility, and then there you go.
Hey, like you get what you get, right?
No.